Hello, my name is Jonatan, and I'm an associate professor and psychologist. In this video, I'm going to present, in short, what I call Dyson's discourses that are different arguments for and against inclusion in the school. So let's see here. This is Alan Dyson. He's professor of education at the University of Manchester, and he presented 4 discourses or reasons to inclusion, but also reasons that could be counter-argued. So in fact, it inspires us both to understand the reasons why and against inclusion in a school setting. And he made it through document analysis of material in relation to the Salamanca Declaration in 1994, an international political declaration about where the supporters were obliged to support inclusion in the school, so every child would be as good as he or she could. There are 4 discourses. Each of the 4 discourses contains its own type of justification for the inclusion, which may stand in its own right. That means that each of these 4 discourses in itself could argue for and against. They don't need to relate necessarily to the other ones. Due to the 4 discourses, there's great confusion about inclusion also among professionals, because one professional might argue from an economic perspective, another one from an ethical perspective, and so it's different kind of arguments. So that's also when we ask why inclusion, there could be a lot of different discussions and reasons, but also about, for instance, which reasons are most important. Is it economic or pragmatic or political or ethical? The first discourse I'm going to present is the economic discourse. The economic discourse aims to improve the utilization of resources in the education system and thus achieve a greater effect from the money invested. In a Danish setting, there's a headline here saying inclusion is not a way of or not spending money, but saving money. In this headline here, so that is very much related to an economic discourse in for and against inclusion in the school system. Historically, we saw in the last 25 years, we have just in a Danish setting spent more and more money on children with special needs or schools for children with special needs. So there has been a discussion about when are we spending too much money, how much can we in fact afford to spend. That will be a financial discussion related to the economic discourse when we are discussing inclusion. Inclusion understood as including every children in an ordinary school. There's also a pragmatic discourse, which is defined. The pragmatic discourse underlines the fact that inclusive schools are most effective as a means of attaining the goal of giving all children a proper education. So from a pragmatic professional point of view, if I was a teacher in a school, it would be simply be easier for me to show or to support, scaffold, help a child with special needs if this child was surrounded by children maybe with not the same challenges or disabilities, because it would be, I could use observational learning. They could observe and imitate the other ones. Either it was to keep attention, or it was to help in relation to anxiety or social competences. So by having a classroom which is more diverse, they could inspire each other. That's why we should have inclusion in the school. Here there's a headline: inclusion is good for everybody, for all children, because the children without disabilities or the children which is not challenged or have any special needs, they will also learn about, for instance, diversity or scaffolding or support of others and develop social competencies. Yeah. A counter argument of the pragmatic is, for instance, when I meet a teacher, she said, I can simply not have that much of diversity because it's too hard to make the whole class listen to me when one child is not keeping attention. Then we have a political discourse. The political discourse stresses that inclusive schools play an important role in the fostering of social equality in society. A political discourse could be that we, from a, for instance, a liberal or socialistic or conservative perspective, are arguing why we should include. A liberal perspective could be that we should have equal chance, each individual should have equal chances. A socialistic perspective could argue it's a way of solidarity, that we show solidarity with people who are, maybe have less than others. And in a conservative, social conservative manner, it could be that we oblige, the ones who have are obliged to support and they take under their wing the people who have less. So it's not that one ideology has patent on supporting or against inclusion. Here it says, make the city diverse, citizenship and inclusion. So here we should include because we are multiple cultures in this headline here. We also have an ethical perspective. The ethical discourse refers to the importance of every child having equal access to education and influence over their own life. So here we are very much using ethical perspectives. Different ethical theories could argue for this because it's just human to do this, to support others. It's the ethical right thing to do. And here there's a headline from the Ministry of Education in Denmark: inclusion is exactly to respect children. So if we, from an ethical point of view, are arguing that respect or respecting children is ethically right, then this would be then that could be within the discourse. Sometimes I also hear, yeah, but include some children that are very much hard to include, might not help them. It might not be the right thing to do. They might be just tolerated and accepted, but not really acknowledged if they go into an ordinary classroom. It could also be that if you are including them, they might have so many devastating experiences and really feel bad if they are in an ordinary school, if they're not really have the social, academically, or physically competences or possibilities to be included in an ordinary setting. So there they might not get help. It would not be ethical right thing to do. So every time we have a discourse supporting, you can also argue against within the same discourse. So that was Dyson's 4 discourses: economic, pragmatic, political, and ethical. Why we should include, but maybe also why we shouldn't. So sometimes we are discussing within one discourse, is it financially better to include or not? Is it ethically better to include or not? But we're also discussing maybe from different perspectives, one from an ethical, one from a financial, and there we are not really arguing, or we are not really agreeing about what is the discussion about when we're talking about inclusion. Is it in a financial manner, or is it ethical or political or pragmatic? That was it. Thank you.